clear away, and then, well, by the afternoon, for much of the southern half of the UK, it's sunny spells and light winds, 22 to 26 Celsius. For the northern half of the UK, a cooler feel, because here we'll have a breeze, we'll have a bit more cloud, and we will have a scattering of showers. Those showers then ease away during Friday evening, and clear spells are expected for many until around midnight. That's when the next area of rain and the winds strengthen as this rain arrives into Western Scotland and Northern Ireland. So coastal gales around Western Scotland, and a milder night to come in the north, but further south, clear spells away from western coasts, and temperatures in some spots down into the single figures. Plenty of sunshine around for the Midlands, southern and eastern England first thing Saturday. Showers sink into northern England and southern Scotland through the day, staying breezy in many places and feeling on the cool side. Sunday starts dry, and it remains dry in many eastern areas, with rain turning up in the west later.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Thursday night, and this is Farage at Live from Ipswich. Please welcome your host, Nigel Farage.
Good evening, it's Farage at Large. We're here in Ipswich this evening. A very enthusiastic crowd. We're going to be talking. His
thought could simply not have been wider. So I'll talk tonight to people involved in the farming and food industry. We'll discuss with local business what size well see means, good or bad. We'll talk about lots of issues. We'll be joined by Terry Butcher of Ipswich Town fame on Talking Pints. But to begin, I want to show you one area where I think this audience will feel pretty strongly, and yet Westminster refuses to do anything. I've been showing you for the last 2 weeks how the Albanian gangs have been advertising getting people across the English Channel. Well, today, we've got a new twist on this. This has never been seen before, never been shown before, but this TikTok video that I'm about to show you now are gangs advertising to actually traffic people from Ireland into the United Kingdom. And they're boasting about it, and of course it's all...
Because without both of you, it wouldn't have happened.
But what about, Ian, the cost of living crisis, as one example? What's happening in the English Channel? I mean, I just think these are areas. I'm just not sure that MPs, that Westminster, that government really understands how ordinary folk think.
I think they certainly could be a lot closer to the electorate. I think one of the problems, and this has been a a problem going back into history is where we recruit our MPs from. An awful lot of MPs from all parties come from a private school background. You don't have anywhere near enough that have worked in the private sector or in what I class as the real world for too long, and any real world experience. And I'd love to see more opportunity for people from working class backgrounds, normal backgrounds, to be able to become an MP. And I think that if that was the case, you would find that that would be reflected in a lot of the policy that came out of Westminster.
Well, you may be right, the wrong type of people. Now, I talked about the migrant crisis a moment ago, and people do feel very strongly. I'm now going to play this TikTok video that we discovered today to traffic people from Ireland illegally into the UK. Let's see it. There you are. It's out there on TikTok. You know, it's yet another avenue I've discovered for illegal immigration into the country. I mean, this is completely out of control.
I agree.
Now, you're backing Liz Truss.
I am.
Passionately.
Yeah, I am quite passionately, yes, because I think she'll deliver what I want to deliver.
Is she going to solve this?
It's very difficult. We've put the framework in with the Borders Bill and the Bill of Rights, which is coming forward, so the framework's there. Unfortunately, where I feel it's fallen down is Pretty has been useless at communicating the barriers. I wouldn't say that. She's passionate about delivering it, and she's tried very hard to deliver it, but she hasn't communicated what the barriers are, you know, why it hasn't happened yet. If people understood the difficulties that she has and all the hoops she's got to jump through, I think they'd be a bit more understanding, but there's just silence, and I just don't feel that they understand what an emergency this is, what a crisis this is. You know what happens.
You feel this with your voters?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, yes.
You know, this is, I mean, there are many other issues. There's you know, the cost of living and all the rest of it. But this is one issue. I mean, let's face it, Brexit voters, and we're in Brexit country, voted to get back control of our borders. We are being humiliated on a daily basis. Who do you think of the two candidates is the better?
I'm still an undecided voter, so I haven't actually voted yet. Originally, I've been quite a Rishi Sunak supporter for the last couple of years. In fact, I identified him on another TV programme as being a rising star in the party, but I do think maybe he's been tainted a little bit by what he did by resigning his position in the cabinet. In all honesty, I think the only political party, I'm going to say this, I'm a Conservative councillor, but I know they're struggling to get a grip on it at the moment, but they are the only political party that actually is treating it serious enough that they've actually got answers.
Hang on. I mean, Keir Starmer, and I mean, you know, we've had to wait a long time for a big, bold policy, but we've got one this week. He's going to cap everybody's bill max at £1,900 per household. That is you can argue the economics of it, but it is a clear policy.
Well, it is a clear policy, but if he thinks that this country can afford to give money to people who don't actually need it, and this is the problem with this policy, it's not targeted at all.
Well, he's not going to be elected anyway, so anyone can give 10,000 away.
All the Liz Truss supporters say that.
I can say that easily. I'll give everyone £10,000.
Be very careful. I suspect, Nadia, that you're right. Although the fact that people like Ian are undecided is even more reason at 7 p.m. tomorrow evening to tune into GB News, where Alistair Stewart, who of course compared the first ever big TV debate back in 2010, will be having a debate in Manchester in front of 2,000 Conservative Party members. So watch that tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. Thank you to both of you.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Lovely to see you.
Local politics matters. I know you get no thanks as councillors for anything you do, but you do a good job.
Thank you very much.
Now, earlier on today, I went down as a guest of the Ipswich Maritime Trust to have a look at a bit of the history of this pretty remarkable town. Today's Farage at Large is in Ipswich, and this is a place with a quite extraordinary history. Stuart, you were telling me a moment ago, boasting this is the oldest town in England.
The oldest English town.
The oldest English town,
continuously occupied
because
since 600.
Because Colchester was the Romans.
That was the Roman claim, yes.
Right.
Ipswich is the first English town.
And everything based really on the river access to the sea,
Yeah.
trade.
Yeah.
When does international trade begin?
Well, we
for
think
Ipswich?
in the 6th, 7th century, there is evidence of a wine trade with the Rhineland, and the wine barrels survived as liners for wells in the old medieval times of Ipswich, and they've been carbon dated and prove that they came from the Rhineland in the 7th century.
Now we're looking at some lovely old buildings here.
Yep.
This one here, which you've
Yep.
got some very early photographs of.
Yes, that's the custom house. It replaced the medieval custom house in 1840, and it's been the custom house ever since. And it's now ABP run port,
Yep.
and that's where their office is still. So it's had the same function. In 1840, when it was built, it attracted photographers of the day, and a local photographer took an image of it, which is really one of the most important early photographs.
Hello there, you're Rob, I believe.
Hello, Nigel, how are you?
Good to see
Nice
you.
to see you, yeah.
So these are the old East Coast barges.
That's right, yeah. There were hundreds of them. And, you know, nowadays everything goes by car or truck, and we'd like to get more things back on the water, but a lot of things come into these ports, obviously, by container ships. But these were the sort of ubiquitous transport of the day.
This one's Thistle.
Yeah.
And I noticed before I arrived, a lot of people were on here. You were doing sailing trips up the River Orwell?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, they were built for cargo, so
Yep.
they were built to be operated by a very small crew. Fantastically clever rig. Looks really, really, really old-fashioned, but actually in its day it was like high-tech, really, because it was very efficient. But to keep the barges going, some of them have got licences for passengers.
And that's what you do?
That's what we do.
So there you are. We've been to Ipswich. We've spent the afternoon going around. We've looked at the ancient, we've looked at the modern, we've looked at the history, we've looked at the fact it's still producing beautiful yachts. It's still, you know, very important place for food exports. But you can come to Ipswich, have a day out. You can even join Rob and go for a sail down the Orwell. And I have to say, we've had a great time. If you haven't been to Ipswich, I tell you what, it's a real surprise. There you go. So I've done my bit for Ipswich. I've more than done my bit, and it is actually a great place to visit. Oliver Paul, your family have been involved in this town in trade for many, many years. You're currently director of Suffolk Food Hall and a beef farmer yourself. Welcome to the programme. And I made the point there that it actually, in terms of food exports, Ipswich is still the most important port in this country. And that kind of begs the question, with the drought that we're experiencing. I mean, I know the East Anglia is always very dry, but it's really dry. What happens to this year's crops?
It's been a very tough harvest this year. There's been shortage of rain, which meant harvests come early, and it also crops haven't fully developed, so they've withered and haven't really even ripened. They've just burnt off. So we've had to harvest really early, and added to that, we've had a lot of fire risks with it. Interestingly, though, in terms of trying to plan out the harvest, it's been slightly less hassle-free because we've had nice good weather, so we haven't been trying to chase around behind rain. So it's been relatively easy from that point of view, but the yields are very varied depending on when the crops actually got in the ground and when they managed to get water.
Now, you had a visitor here in May, come to the Suffolk Food Hall, which I'm sure you were very proud.
Absolutely.
The Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rishi Sunak, came and paid you a visit. Were you impressed with what you saw?
Yes, it was a visit to try and find out how local businesses were. So it was an endeavour for Westminster to come out to the provinces and actually understand what was happening and what our real problems were. He was very informed and he was very inquisitive. Slightly interesting, and I'm sure you would have seen this in political circles, it actually got cut short because there was an opportunity for Google to come to Ipswich to make a big announcement. And of course, the multinational, they dictated the tune and he ran off to be part of that presentation. So, you know, perhaps we didn't get a chance to say our full piece.
OK. Do you think he's the right man to win?
I think he is thinking more about the country rather than just about his party. And that is, I suppose, that thought of mine flows through to what I think the Conservative membership need to be doing. They shouldn't be thinking about making a vote for themselves or for their party. They need to be making sure their vote is for the nation.
Now, food prices are up around about 25% for many products. I think some, like pasta, are higher. Milk's about 40%. And yet we have a government and Boris Johnson announced at last year's conference that we're going to take 30% of our agricultural land, rewild, build back beaver and all that nonsense. We've got, I know, it's almost unbelievable really, isn't it? We've got farmer protests going on in the Netherlands where they want to cut the number of cows, Irish farmers being bribed €5,000 a time to cull their herds, because apparently you guys are producing too much carbon dioxide and we have to save the world. We've got Brexit, we're in charge of our own agricultural policy. That, I think, is a good thing. I'll get your view on that. But is farming under attack? Is the idea that we should be producing food and meat now under attack from the global warming lobby?
Well, I'm a strong believer in a bit of disruption, a bit of challenge, look at conventional thought, think of new ways and better ways. And without doubt, there are pressures on farming, how we manage our landscape, our wildlife, how that fits in with the need of the nation, the changing global trade that's happened. So, you know, there's a hell of a lot afoot at the moment. And it has been compounded by Brexit, the needs to make changes from that, the COVID era as well. So, yes, there's a lot of thinking that needs to happen.
There is.
A lot of my fellow farmers, you know, just want to get on with their industry and they want to do what they do well and they want to focus on that, and they're quite keen to come away from the subsidy system because it allows them to make their own decisions rather than be dictated to by an artificial market. Others are thinking, well, actually, and it'd be interesting to see what Richard Benyon thinks about this, but, you know, where we've got cost of living crisis, I'm afraid that you're right that the commodity prices are up.
Yeah.
And my prediction is that food prices, we have not seen the full amount of inflation with those. So you've got commodity prices high. It will take a little while before that flows through to the supermarket
we should
shop.
be producing as much food as we can, surely.
So at some point, Richard Benyon maybe needs to think about actually delaying the winding down of subsidies so that he can artificially keep the food price at an affordable level.
Since Brexit, final thought, is the farming industry a little bit closer to Westminster than it was before?
I think the farming industry is much more informed, and that is partly our trade bodies, the NFU, that help us with that, and it is actually partly DEFRA. Interestingly, most of our liaison is with the DEFRA agencies, and that would be Natural England, that would be the RPA, and so on and so forth. And the tune is dictated, obviously, by whatever minister is in charge. Problem with DEFRA is it's always the quick post, Liz Truss included, where you're in and out. They never really have much continuity to that. Now, that has happened a bit better more recently.
I just get a sense, Oliver, that you're being listened to a bit more than you were as EU members.
We are.
Yeah, good. Listen, thank you for coming on, sharing the concerns of the farming industry in this very, very rural county. Thank you very much. In a moment, we will have Barrage to Farage, where members of the audience can ask me questions. I don't know what they are, but first, we're going to take a quick break. Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club. Oh my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
There's just 2 weeks left of voting in the battle to become Britain's next Prime Minister. Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak have been dashing around the country, and on Friday they make their pitches to Conservative voters in the heart of Labour-run Manchester. But do either of them have what it takes to defend and maintain Boris Johnson's mighty majority? GB News is proud to be hosting the Conservative hustings in Manchester, live and exclusive from 7 p.m. GB News, the People's Channel.
Hello there. Well, I asked earlier, is Westminster still out of touch? Alan says they've never been in touch. Lloyd says they've been out of touch for about 100 years. Sharon says Westminster is the reason we never got Brexit done properly. Out of touch and have been 4 years. And that is the general feeling, but interesting, wasn't it, to talk to the farming community, where now, since Brexit, they're having a little bit more of a say. I mentioned earlier that GB News are hosting this big debate with 2,000 Conservative Party members in Manchester tomorrow night. There's been other GB news today, including the fact that Michael Portillo will be joining GB News, which I think is going to be very... yeah, I kind of thought that might be popular. Now, let's talk about business, and there is one huge burning business issue here in this county of Suffolk. Ashley Shorey-Mills joins me, Head of Supply Chain Engagement, Suffolk Chambers of Commerce. Ashley, in a word, there's only one word, isn't there? It's called Sizewell.
Yeah, I think the excitement for this region, and Sizewell C is the start of it, the energy sector is the wider discussion as well, is that there's this opportunity now, potentially on the horizon after the recent development consent order that was passed by government, that we have this opportunity ahead of us, and it's a fantastic one.
And for business and for jobs in Suffolk, what does it actually mean?
So there's loads of numbers. Obviously, there's loads of numbers, and I don't want to throw them all at you.
But give us one that's true.
Well, hey, my job is to deliver all of them, Nigel. So,
everyone says that.
No, the key is that Sizewell C has made these commitments around local supply chain, and that's key, and that's the most important thing. So our role is to help local businesses play a part in this project. It will be built. It has to be built, and we're there to make sure that local businesses play their part. So therefore, estimates of over £4 billion for the East Anglian economy through the supply chain. They're numbers which you don't just get. And of that 4 billion, 2 billion in Suffolk alone. So these are fantastic opportunities for local businesses to really take advantage. When you're on site, at peak there'll be around 8,000 workers on site. Around a third of that workforce will come from local people. So therefore, these are now opportunities for jobs in a region that tends not to be often overlooked. Maybe the levelling up aspects could be there. But this is the opportunity for people to look at careers.
What about RSPB Minsmere? I've been there myself. There are Avocets, Bitterns, and apparently Sizewell C is going to take up a chunk of Minsmere. Is that true?
There's areas which people are concerned about. And quite frankly, let's be honest, we live in a country where at least people who have concerns can make them public. And that's a fantastic thing. Yes, there's RSPB Minsmere, and I visited myself. It's beautiful. Sizewell isn't going to be built on it.
Right,
and there's huge amounts of work being done to ensure that any concerns people have around that are being addressed.
But there's no water. There's not enough water for the construction site, and East Anglia is short of water anyway. The water companies are either telling us not to use our hoses or flooding the seas with sewage. I mean, they're not doing a very good job. You're going to need a desalination plant, aren't you?
There's a lot of plans in place. So as you'll be aware from the development consent order, the discussions around desalination and delivering water to site, that's all been outlined, agreed, and obviously the government was satisfied with what they heard. And our job, we see it as an opportunity. If a desalination plant is required, then let's get local firms actually building it.
Actually, I'll be honest with you, I'm pro Sizewell C. I think it's a very good idea. But the one slight worry that I have is that much of the east coast of England is subject to coastal erosion. And if you look at that beach, and I've walked along the beach in front of Sizewell, it's lovely, but there isn't much of a ridge, there aren't many sand dunes, there isn't much protection. How do we know this is not the wrong side?
The honest answer is, Nigel, I don't know. Our role around the supply chain is to ensure that the businesses are there to deliver it. Now, I would certainly hope, assume, and from what I've seen, these modellings, these discussions have been had. I would be amazed if they were considering building it if there was these concerns. Right. So I think geologically they are satisfied. But again, bring it back to business. It's local businesses right now that are doing the surveys on site to ensure that it's built as sustainable as possible.
Well, one thing for certain, Ashley, we need more energy produced in this country. We need to be energy independent, and nuclear is a very important part of that mix.
And our region...
And I think it can make a big difference.
Honestly, our region is huge. There's the estimates that over the next 25 years, there'll be about £120 billion of investment in the energy sector across Norfolk and Suffolk alone. Yeah. This is huge. And so our region, you spoke about agriculture a moment ago, fantastic. And it's a heritage that we have in this region. But we can also have energy. And energy now is actually looking forward, that opportunity for businesses and for young people that we can take back control.
I wish you well with it. Ashley, thank you for joining me.
Pleasure, thank you.
Now, just a very quick What the Farage moment. The Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, was today on commercial radio talking about the fact that we've had 6 murders in 4 days in London, including an 87-year-old man stabbed to death on his mobility scooter. And Khan has said that we'd expected this because it's been a long, hot summer and people's tempers get frayed. If the Mayor of London thinks a murder wave can be put down to bad weather, well, I'm really sorry, Khan. Get a grip. Work with the police. Let's get tough. Otherwise, London is not going to be a safe city for anybody. I thought it was a dreadful way to answer these shocking murders that we've seen. I really do. Now, right, here we go. It's Barrage the Farage. I know your name. I don't know what you're going to ask me. Chris, here goes.
Hi, Nigel. Like you, I think that Donald Trump winning the 2024 presidential election is vital for the security and prosperity, not just of the United States, but I think also the rest of us in the Western world. What I wanted to ask you is, as somebody who's clearly trusted by him and I think has his ear as well, what's the biggest piece of advice you would give him in the run-up to that election campaign?
Oh, gosh, advising Donald Trump is not a very easy thing to do because he does know his own mind. Look, he's upset at the mass mail-out of postal ballots. I've seen postal voting fraud in this country. I saw it in Peterborough a couple of years ago in a by-election on the most appalling scale. People go to prison, but most of his voters are going to be like many British people. They're going to be people with mortgages, worried about rising energy costs, worried about what their kids are being taught at school. And for them, they need a positive message looking forward. So not too much looking back, be the party of electoral reform. But frankly, the Democrats have made a complete mess of everything. We're on the anniversary of the withdrawal from Afghanistan. It made the West look weak. Without it, Putin would not have invaded Ukraine. They're getting so much wrong. And Trump, look, he's not everyone's cup of tea. And he's a very outspoken New Yorker. But I think on the big issues of the world, like the threats posed by China, like the threats posed to free speech, he's the only guy I can see with the courage to stand up and do it. So my advice to Chris would be look forward. What would your advice be?
Very similar, I think. I mean, I think I was slightly worried after the such a big deal was made of the fact that he clearly strongly feels that the 2020 election was rigged.
Yeah.
And I think I was slightly worried, actually, that some of his base may have become disillusioned with the whole system. And then I think we saw that in the Georgia election not too long afterwards.
We did, yeah.
So I think not focusing too much on that, because I think if people are convinced that the system's rigged, but I think potentially, I think what we've seen in the last couple of weeks with the FBI, I think will almost re-energise any of his base who maybe were.
Well, I saw him speak 2 weeks ago in Dallas. He was looking great, or as he would say, just so great, so great, so great. Good. Thank you. Stuart is up next.
Nigel, myself and my wife, we're publicans. We've run the pub for 22 years locally. Now, my question is regarding inflation. How can raising interest rates by 1%, 2%, 3% offset a 500% increase in my gas costs. In order to justify that, I would have to increase turnover by over 15% to maintain the bottom line.
Stuart, the fact is inflation is caused for two reasons. One is monetary inflation, that we print too much money and we pump it into the system and there's more money chasing the same number of goods. And then there's price shock inflation, which we've seen on the back of Ukraine. Interest rates are predicted to go up by 2% by the end of May. Interest rates going up has a dampening effect upon the economy and in time reduces inflation, but it doesn't do it quickly. And the answer to your question is the Bank of England putting up interest rates now is going to have very, very little to do with what your energy bill is going to be over the course of the next year. They got this wrong. They should have raised interest rates 12, 15 months ago.
But also all my suppliers, their input costs are increasing by the same margin. So therefore their supplies to me and my bottom line ever dwindles. Unless I somehow manage to maintain my customer base and increase prices, which increases inflation.
Stuart, you just summed up the British economy. We're in a bit of a mess. I wish you well. Thank you very much indeed. Next up, it is Tony.
Thank you, Nigel, for coming and rallying the troops, as it were.
Do what I can.
Given that the current two candidates for Prime Minister will do something about the current crisis, do you think if either one of them were to state emphatically that within 6 months they would solve the problem of Northern Ireland, fishing, immigration, and that would have effectively focused the attention of 17.4 million people, plus the 80-seat majority voters that got them into power?
Tony, if they did those things, I would strip naked and climb onto the roof, you know, and we would then have a proper Brexit. The British people expected us to have control of our borders. They then discovered we were still stuck in something called the ECHR. Northern Ireland's been cut off. You speak to East Coast fishermen at Aldborough, on the beach or whatever. Yeah. They've been betrayed. Bits of Brexit have worked. There's a lot more to do. If they do it, as I say, I'll be thrilled. I don't see it.
You don't see it?
I'm afraid not. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. We'll see. Thank you. Jill. Hello, Jill.
Do you think that after the GB News film that an investigation in France shown on your show yesterday or last night will concentrate the minds of the government and force them to do anything new?
Look, as I said, you know, the hugely increased turnout in the Brexit referendum, a lot of it from non-voters, is people thought maybe this one time, just this one time, our vote might make a difference. Yeah. And getting back control of our borders, getting this thing properly organised and managed was top of the list for millions of people. Not for everybody, but for millions of people. And the 2019 majority that Johnson got was on the back of that too. And that was something I'd pushed, and it helped me get rid of Theresa May, which opened the door for Boris Johnson. The best thing I ever did get rid of Theresa May. I mean, it really was. So if they don't do it, if they don't solve this, they will lose the next election. Yeah. Because people simply won't turn out to vote for them because they will have overpromised and underdelivered time after time. And I thought the piece of work GB News put out yesterday was sensational. Brilliant. It was brilliant journalism. We're revealing the truth, and we're not afraid to tell the truth. We are, after all, the People's Channel.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And finally, Patricia.
Hello, Nigel.
Good evening.
Nigel, do you think if Liz Truss does become our new PM, do you think she's got it in her to solve the migrant crisis? Or be like Maggie Thatcher style?
Well, she dresses like Maggie Thatcher. She wants us to think she's like Maggie Thatcher. Do you know what? She's been in the cabinet for 8 years, and she wasn't a household name. And in cricketing terms, with the public, she's hardly troubled the scorer in 8 years. Now, that may be because she's played everything with a straight bat and been very sensible. I don't know. I mean, look, she was a Remainer. She voted for Mrs May's treacherous sellout on 3 occasions. And now we're told she's a born-again Leaver. and everything's going to be fine. Well, people are allowed to change their minds. We all, at different points of our lives, change our minds on things. For the sake of the country, I want to believe it's true. For the sake of the country, I want to believe she's got the guts to take on the civil service, to deal with the problems that we've got. But history teaches me that again and again and again, Conservatives get elected by sounding very conservative and don't govern in a very conservative way. And maybe in the end, that's one of Boris's legacies. You know, elected as a Conservative, led far too much as a Liberal. I think Truss will not be up to these challenges, but I really hope I'm wrong for the sake of the country. Patricia, thank you very much. In a moment, I will be joined on Talking Pints by former Ipswich Town Rangers and, of course, England star Terry Butcher. He'll be here in just 2 minutes. Join my show, Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m, Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club. Oh, my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, Talking Pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Coming up on Dan Wootton Tonight, will leadership frontrunner Liz Truss be able to deliver opportunity equality across the UK? Left-leaning Minister Paul Scully explains why he's backing Truss for PM. As the majority of Brits say enough to the censorship of classic movies and TV shows, Hello Hello's Vicky Michelle leads the resistance against wokery and celebrates the iconic sitcom's 40th anniversary. Plus, there's big opinion from political commentator Richard Taylor, Anne Widdecombe, and my superstar panel, top Daily Mail columnist Sarah Vine, conservative commentator Dominique Samuels, and author and broadcaster Amy Nicol. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursday, from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News.
Well, there we are. I'm joined on Talking Pints by Ipswich Town and England legend. Not bad being a legend, is it, Terry Butcher?
A living legend as well.
Absolutely.
That's quite nice.
Cheers. Very good to see you. Now, very much a Suffolk man, Lowestoft grammar boy, obviously a good footballer when you were young. What this crowd may not know, but they're going to love this, is that you rejected Norwich City because you wanted to play for it.
Yeah. It was a pretty easy thing to do, to be honest. Yeah. I did have a trial with them, and I had to wear the kit for the trial match, and I I did feel physically sick, to be honest, so I had a shocker. I didn't want to go back, but luckily I've been invited for a trial for 4 weeks with Ipswich after that. But the Norwich coach said, come back. I thought, no chance, I'm coming back to you.
This Norfolk-Suffolk rivalry is clearly...
I love Norfolk, but not so much Norwich yet.
and you were a fan of Ipswich?
Yeah.
Before you had those trials?
A big fan, yeah. We're living in Lowestoft. It was a lot of blue shirts up there, a lot of Ipswich fans, and obviously with Ipswich's decline into League One, there's a lot more Norwich fans now, so obviously we want to try and put it right to rectify that, yeah.
What a club it was. I mean, you think of the names that were here at Ipswich, you know, Alf Ramsey, Bobby Robson, and, hey, you know, when you played for Ipswich, I mean, you won the UEFA Cup. I mean, it was quite incredible, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was incredible. We got pretty close to the FA Cup final, lost in the semi that year, and obviously finished second in the league to Aston Villa. But I wasn't taken on by Ipswich until I was 17. No academies in those days, just schools of excellence. So, but to play for your team that you support, having watched on the terraces and grown up with the club, and it was, you know, I was in awe. And when I was signed by Ipswich, I'm actually in the same dressing room or mixing or playing against my heroes. I mean, it's pretty hard not to just watch them play and not do your job. So I had to learn to run around and kick them, yeah.
I think you did do your job. There's not much doubt about that.
I kicked a few, put it that way, yeah.
Well, you were there at centre-back, and, yeah, I mean, well, weren't you what a defender is supposed to be?
Yes, I didn't have my socks over my knees, and I didn't have tattoos and earrings and big hair and all that kind of thing now, and all that sort of thing, yeah. You did what you did, you defended. And there was an incident in the game on last Saturday, when one player kicked the ball onto the roof of the stand. And I turned around to my friend next door and I said, I made a career out of that, kicking the ball on that stand. I got rid of a few balls that way, because in those days you could kick the ball out and it would take ages for a ball to come on, so you got a breather. But nowadays it's like multi-ball, the balls keep coming on and straight back on. I wouldn't have played today, no.
You were clearly doing very well at Ipswich, and you finished up, I mean, 77 caps for England there in defence. It's a big, long England career, isn't it? It's 10 years,
yeah.
3 World Cups.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Pretty good.
But I was under Bobby Robson's tutelage really from '76 when he was Ipswich manager to 1990. So 14 years I served under the great man, and he used to live near me in Ipswich. So we used to bump into each other when we were walking the dogs, and he was so engrossed in the football. He didn't even know where his dog was at times, because he just wandered off, and he was talking about the game and everything else. And I used to walk back to my house, which was on the road up to his house, and I used to go down the drive and walk home to go in. And he used to follow me with his dog, and still talking football all the time. And I actually then opened the door to go in the house, and he started to follow me in the house. And I said, Gaffer, I said, you live up there, I live here. Good night. So, yeah. But people used to say I got into his team because I used to walk his dog and cut his grass. But I used to cut his grass, but that was about it, yeah.
I mean, obviously a huge honour to play for England, but I mean, when you look back at it all, those World Cups, I mean, Italia 90. Yeah. Italia 90. Now, I've got a little bit of a mini grudge against you, Terry. I was feeling so confident about you guys. You were doing so well. I bought a ticket on the black market to go to the final in Rome, and I bought it just before the semi-finals. And you lot lost on penalties. I mean, you owe me a fortune.
Yeah, I do, actually, yeah.
No, it was a bit, wasn't it? But again, it's the curse of penalties, isn't it?
It is the curse of penalties. Another bad decision by you when it comes to that, yeah. No, it was... I mean, I was taken off before that. I was substituted, so I couldn't take a penalty anyway. But they did practice the penalties. But the Germans are ruthless when it comes to that. And like I said to you before the show, I was in Russia, watched the Colombia game on penalties. England won on penalties, and you're thinking, well, that's it now. We've broken the hoodoo. And then, of course, we get to the Euros and we lose again on penalties. So, but we're so close. And I think with Gareth now and with the team now, like with the ladies now, playing great football, getting into finals, winning them with the ladies, not winning them with England, but at least getting to finals. I think now we're at a stage where we can be really talked as one of the real favourites to go and win something. So, yeah.
So, World Cup coming up later this year. Good side.
Yep.
Every chance.
Every chance. It'll be really weird going out to Qatar. I've been to some funny places to watch World Cups. But Qatar will certainly be different. But yeah, with the heat, not the heated stadiums, but the air-conditioned stadiums now and everything else like that, it'll be a different proposition. And I think it's coming right in the mid-season because England notoriously wilt when it comes to summer World Cups because at the end of a long season they're just completely knackered, to be honest, mentally and physically. So I think during the season they're going to be fresher, they're going to be sharper, as are other teams, of course, other countries. But I think with England this will matter more.
Now, famously, of course, there is this incredible photograph of you, and it'll never leave you, and nor should it, of the blooded, the blooded Terry Butcher with the headband on, and it was a game, wasn't it? It was one of the qualifying games, wasn't it, where it happened?
The 6th of September 1989 in Stockholm, Sweden. Not that I remember it much, to be honest.
Well, if you ever look at the picture on the telly, you can remind yourself of it.
Yeah. That was the last time I was sober that night, to be honest. Because I actually went because after the doctor had stitched my head up again, we went to the airport to fly back, and I actually bought the whole press contingent a drink. That's how much of a knock on my head I had. But luckily in those days there was only about 10 people, so now there would be about 110, so I'll be broke.
And what was that, a clash?
Yeah, I went to head the ball a long way, and that's what you used to do in those days, 50, 60 yards easy. And I thought I'll give this a bit of Timson, and boom, and just smash it. And unfortunately, the Swedish striker popped up in front of me and I smashed his head. He got cut as well, but not as bad as me.
Oh, I mean, ups and downs, of course, of sport. I mean, the highs of UEFA Cup and the incredible runs in the World Cup you had. What's it like as a professional sportsman? When that semi went wrong, for example, in 1990. How bad are those downs?
They're pretty bad, but I think we had the sort of bonus of going longer or further than we'd ever gone before, and I think. We lifted the whole country. We didn't know that at the time out there because we didn't have the pictures, the BBC and ITV and everything else like that. We didn't have that out there, so we didn't know. But when we got back to Luton, it was like 250,000 people on the streets and everything else like that. It was just amazing. It really did strike home what we'd done. So just to play for England is an unbelievable experience. I can't put it into real words, but to stand there with the national anthems played and singing the song, wow. Well, I'm welling up now. It feels really emotional. It's just the best feeling in the world. And to be captain is pressure as well, but it's not like cricket and rugby and things like this. You don't make big decisions on the pitch. You just generally toss the coin, call it right, call it wrong, introduce your players to the dignitaries and get on with it and be an example.
Now, you're a tall fella, and you talked about that particular incident where you got hurt. Heading the ball, and you said sometimes heading the ball back as much as 50, 60 yards. I mean, when you were training in those days, how many headers would you be sort of doing in training?
Well, they say now with the Premier League, their protocol on heading is like 10 headers a week, 10 like forced headers. So headers, the ball's travelled more than 35 yards. So it's 10 headers a week. We used to do training for an hour, 60 minutes, and we used to head 10 balls probably every 30 seconds. So you think an hour's training, how many balls, how many thousand balls do we have to head? And in those days, it wasn't quite the leather balls with the laces, but it was balls that were still quite heavy and out of shape, training balls and all this kind of thing as well. So, yeah, and I'm at an age now when you sort of, I'm 63 now, I think it's 63.6 when you start to show signs of dementia. So, hang on, I soon forget where I live and all that sort of thing. But I can't make fun of it because it is a very, very serious matter.
So many well-known footballers have suffered from dementia. You wonder how many lesser-known figures.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot not reported. I mean, when you've got concussion in our day, even now coming up to nowadays in the leagues, a lot of people don't report having concussion. They just get back out there and play because their wages mean so much. When you're top stars, it's everything. So you have the protocols to follow, and I think that's right. Sports science now is absolutely brilliant. So you've got to look after the players because these are valuable commodities. But it's because work wasn't done before that I think, like Head for Change, I'm part of that as well. Yeah. Campaigning and, you've got families that are devastated because there's early onset dementia for footballers. Look at the England World Cup squad of '66. A lot of them, virtually all of them, had dementia. And you don't want to see your heroes and people like that. You don't see anybody like that. And as family members, you're going to struggle to look after them because, footballers in those days didn't have the money. The family certainly haven't got the money. So there has been proved now that it does affect your brain. The only way that you can find it out, really, is when people die, then you can have a look. It follows on from America. America was really poor when they, the gridiron and the clash is there.
Yeah.
They've got their act together, and hopefully now the authorities can get their act together.
No, very, very well said. And Terry, still living in Suffolk, still supporting Ipswich.
Yep, come on, you Blues.
Lending a hand to the under-21s, I understand.
I was.
Yep.
But I'm a fan now. And
You're a fan?
I love it. And I go along, and it's just... I go to Portman Road and I walk in the entrance, get on the terraces, and I have a tingle every time. It's the best place in the world.
Well, I tell you what, Terry Butcher, you are absolutely Ipswich man, and thank you for joining me. Now, well, that was great, wasn't it? He still has a tingle when he goes to Portman Road. It says a hell of a lot. Now, Farage at Large, as you know, we take round the country every fortnight. I'm hoping in 2 weeks' time it won't be quite as warm and muggy as it's been here in this room in Ipswich tonight. But we are going to be Farage at Large in Worcester on Thursday, the 1st of September. And once again, of course, there'll be a whole load of local issues, but they'll impinge and be part of the whole national debate. You want to come and watch Farage at Large in Worcester on the 1st of September, go right now to the GB News website to book your tickets, gbnews.uk, and if you don't do it by tomorrow morning, they will all be gone. Now, it's time for a song, and we have got local Suffolk singer Serena Grant, and the question was, what song to sing? Well, it had to be a Suffolk song. It had to be Castle on the Hill, which refers, of course, to Framlingham Castle, famously sung by Ed Sheeran, but it'll be sung even better this evening, here in Ipswich, I have no doubt, by Serena Grant.
When I was 6 years old, I broke my leg. I was running from my brother and his friends, and tasted the sweet perfume of the mountain grass I rolled down. I was younger then. Take me back to when I found my heart and broke it here. Made friends and lost them through the years, and I've not seen the roaring fields in so long. I know I've grown. I can't wait to go home, and I'm on my way, driving at 90 down those country lanes, singing to Tiny Dancer. Old and smoking hand-rolled cigarettes, running from the law through the backfields and getting drunk with my friends. Had my first kiss on a Friday night. I don't reckon that I did it right, but I was younger then. Take me back to when we found weekend jobs, and when we got paid, we tried to drink spirits and drink them straight. Me and my friends have not grown up in so long. Oh, how we've grown. I can't wait to go home, and I'm on my way, driving at 90 down those country lanes, singing to Tiny Dancer. Miss the way you make me feel, and it's real when we watch the sunset over the castle on the hill.
Hello again, Aidan McGivern here with the latest forecast from the Met Office. Showers for many over the next 24 hours, widely across the UK overnight, and then clear spells away from the showers and turning drier across southern areas by early Friday. Now, a weather front is currently crossing the UK. That's brought cloud and some rain to places during the day, and, well, that does tend to sink southeast overnight. So rain increasingly turning showery as it pushes into the Midlands, East Anglia, southern England through the night time. Clear spells to the north behind the rain, but further showers into central and western Scotland as well as Northern Ireland. Breeze picking up here, but away from the breeze, single figures in some sheltered parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England overnight, whilst it stays relatively mild in the southeast. 17 Celsius here first thing, but some lively rain about as well, perhaps even a few thunderstorms early on for Cambridgeshire into Norfolk, Suffolk and Essex. They clear away, and then, well, by the afternoon, for much of the southern half of the UK, it's sunny spells and light winds, 22 to 26 Celsius. For the northern half of the UK, a cooler feel because here we'll have a breeze, we'll have a bit more cloud, and we will have a scattering of showers. Those showers then ease away during Friday evening, and clear spells are expected for many until around midnight. That's when the next area of rain and the winds strengthen as this rain arrives into western Scotland and Northern Ireland. So coastal gales around western Scotland and a milder night to come in the north, but further south, clear spells away from